It was a cold evening in a small Canadian town, the kind of night when the wind seemed to sneak through every crack in the window and the streets emptied earlier than usual. Daniel had just returned home from his late shift, tired but grateful for the warmth of his little apartment. He had always been someone who noticed people, someone who couldn't walk past suffering without feeling it tug at his heart. As he locked the door behind him, a faint knock startled him. When he opened it, he found a young woman standing there, her eyes red from the cold and her voice trembling as she whispered, "I have nowhere to sleep." For a moment, Daniel froze. He wasn't used to strangers at his door, and yet, there was something in her eyes, a mixture of exhaustion and desperation, that left no room for hesitation. He could see that she had been outside for hours, her coat thin and her hands shaking as she tried to hold herself together. He stepped aside and invited her in. "You don't have to be out there tonight," he said softly. The woman introduced herself as Emma. She explained that she had lost her job 2 months ago and had been moving between shelters, but tonight the shelter was full, and she had nowhere else to go. She spoke quietly, as though afraid of being a burden, her words breaking in between shallow breaths. Daniel listened, not interrupting, just letting her speak because he knew sometimes the greatest gift was simply being heard. His apartment was small, just one bedroom, a modest living space, and a tiny kitchen. He glanced at his bed, then at Emma's exhausted face. Without thinking twice, he said, "You can sleep on the bed tonight. I'll take the floor." Emma shook her head, insisting she couldn't take his comfort, but Daniel insisted with a gentle smile. "It's just a bed. You need it more than I do right now." That night, Daniel laid a blanket down on the floor and watched as Emma slowly sank into the bed, her body giving into the kind of fatigue only someone who had been carrying the weight of the world could know. For the first time in weeks, she fell asleep without fear of being asked to leave, without the cold biting at her skin. Daniel lay awake on the floor, staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone so young had ended up with nowhere to go. He knew life was unpredictable, but he also knew that kindness could make all the difference. In the morning, Emma woke up to the smell of coffee. Daniel had prepared a simple breakfast, toast and eggs. She ate quietly, tears slipping down her face as she whispered thank you over and over. "No one has been this kind to me in so long," she said, her voice breaking. Daniel didn't say much, he just nodded and reminded her that everyone deserves a safe place to rest. Over the next few days, Daniel helped Emma find resources, calling shelters, food banks, and even reaching out to a community center he knew about. Slowly, she began to rebuild. She applied for jobs again, and within weeks, she had part-time work at a local cafe. Every evening she would come by Daniel's apartment, sometimes sharing her tips, sometimes just bringing a smile that hadn't been there before. What started as one night of kindness turned into a story of hope. Emma regained her strength and confidence, and Daniel found himself deeply moved by the courage she carried within her. They remained close, not because of obligation, but because they had discovered something powerful, that one simple act of compassion can change the course of someone's life. By the end of it all, Emma had her own place, small but hers. On moving day, she hugged Daniel tightly and whispered, "You gave me more than your bed. You gave me back my dignity and a chance to start over." And Daniel, with tears in his eyes, realized that sometimes the most meaningful impact we can make doesn't come from wealth or grand gestures, but from the quiet decision to put someone else's needs before our own. The story leaves us with a simple truth. In a world where people are often too busy to notice each other, choosing kindness can be the difference between despair and hope. One bed, one floor, one night of compassion, that was all it took to change Emma's life forever. Would you like me to also write 5 emotional scene prompts, like you've asked before for Piclumen? So you can generate the perfect images for this story?